There's two types that I see. One type is about 3 feet tall, very dark, very ugly, not humanoid at all. The others are very, very tall, very lizard-looking, not pleasant.
The creatures that I have seen mostly have been the grays.
And when I say tall, I'm not talking 6 feet, I'm talking very tall, like 10 feet tall.
Usually about 3 to 4 foot tall. Real big, almond-shaped, black eyes.
The face was oval. The being itself couldn't have been more than 3 feet tall. It was sitting cross-legged at the top left-hand corner of my bed.
They do seem to be able to walk through walls and materialize. I thought for a while they were ghosts when I was younger, but these beings materialize into a physical form, so it's hard to say. They might be from another dimension, so to speak, or anything like that.
This being rushed at me across the bed. She had a tool in her hand and she was performing some mysterious procedure on me.
What did it involve?
I wasn't allowed to lift my head, so all I could see was what I could see looking down across my face. And I saw the tool. I don't even want to know what she was doing. It was horrible. It was frightening, and it lasted a long time.
Did you ever think you were going crazy?
No. Nope. The only thing that I thought might be possible is that there was something that was causing a very consistent experience. What that something was, I didn't know, but I never thought that I was crazy.
Invariably, there were multiple experiences, often dating back to childhood.
And what was left inside? You say all these probes, were these detected in the medical test?
Well, you see, your theory is fine, sir, except for one particular thing that hasn't been mentioned, and that is that I myself have been having experiences ever since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my experiences started when I was very young. I can remember as far back as 6 years old, being in my room, just going to bed, and then aware that there were 6 light shafts coming down through the ceiling and would stand around my bed and start turning into a human-like looking form.
Marie and me. This is me from school days. This was during the time of my first encounter.
My childhood was strange to a certain extent. I was seeing things, and my parents didn't. Nobody in my family seemed to see what I was seeing.
When they took him up in the spaceship, the aliens abused him sexually.
Well, it was under hypnotic regression that I found out that I had been abducted when I was 4 years old. And it was during this abduction that I had something stuck up my nose. And to me, I just felt like I was in a medical, like a hospital or something as I grew up. I didn't have any real memory of it. And I remember touching these lights, sort of like I guess you could say it was like an intelligence sort of test. I was just touching these lights as a child. But it was not until Tony had me regressed until I was 4 that I realized I had been abducted at 4 years old.
And what happened the next time?
Well, the memory that I have was when I was 14 and again at 24, but 24 I had more physical evidence of the abduction than the one at 14.
You were first abducted when you were 4?
Yes, when I got to 5, that was the first abduction that I remember. I was looking out of the kitchen window and I saw an off-white disc and there was a tube underneath it.
Beginning of the Mary Edwards interview.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you, it's nice to be here.
When did you realize that you were being abducted or something was happening to you?
I remember it like it was yesterday because it was so scary.
It began in Mary's childhood home when she was just 6 years old.
I was taken on a spacecraft. I remember lying on a very cold metal table. It was stark white walls. It was bright lights. I felt very cold. I saw these beings. They put a big machine on my head. It was like electrodes in my brain. I thought, what am I doing here? What have I done wrong? What's wrong with me? Not thinking that they were taking eggs from me to be able to procreate other hybrid kids.
I'm what people call a lifetime contactee. This has been happening since I can remember. I used to beg my parents, don't put me to bed, the bald men are gonna get me. I called them the bald men, because I was dealing with the typical, like, the movie aliens, the grays. I have, I want to call it a gray, but she's not gray. It's a female. She calls herself Mucky. I met her in Rhode Island when I lived in Rhode Island. And I woke up to knowing there was somebody in the room with me. And I saw by the door a little shadow duck behind the bureau. I'm like, I know you're there, I see you. But her skin is really what got me, because I got a good look at this face, and it was like a pink face, like a translucent pink, like swirling, like mercury. When you touch mercury, it kind of swirls. She reached out and she grabbed my hand, and I felt the cold, like clammy little fingers. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm holding hands with, and then she's communicating with me. I don't remember the entire conversation, but I remember hearing some kind of a voice, a disembodied voice saying, you know, enough. I would try to keep my sister awake. Stay awake with me, stay, you know, they're coming. They would come in with cloaks on, like capes, covered most of their bodies, and you get hit with this energy. Your whole body starts vibrating, and you get paralyzed. You can't speak out of your mouth, but you can, they talk to you in your mind. They actually levitate you off the bed. They can throw you through solid walls. I've gone through walls, ceilings, windows. When I'm taken, it doesn't matter. But I've seen them morph and change into human-looking beings, and then all of a sudden there's a giant lizard standing in front of you. It's just like, okay. These experiences, I mean, they're not only unbelievable to the experiencer themselves, but it's something that's traumatic. I've always had a twin sister to go through this together. When we were looking out, reaching for help, when stuff really started happening, my sister had an experience. The beings told her, you're gonna start a support group and you're gonna call it Starboard Support. Next thing you know, we're up and going. A lot of times I will feel that sickness before I even know they're in the room. Like I'll hear this weird buzzing and this feeling of dread just comes over you. I'm like, oh man, here we go again, you know? Gonna deal with this jerk. PTSD is very rampant. And the way that you feel when you're around these negative beings, it's like, you feel like death.
I told my mother at one time that I was seeing these beings. This is when I was 7 years old, 8 years old, and I was told I was seeing demons, that I was fooling around with stuff that I shouldn't be. It was very hard because I'm not a liar. You know, I'm not making up stories. These things are really happening.
But everything changed when Alice met Pat.
The two of you are beginning a strange journey.
They met at a UFO conference. Let's just say Pat is no skeptic when it comes to aliens. But everything changed when Alice met Pat. In fact, he's downright obsessive. He's collected pretty much every UFO publication ever published, and some rather dodgy videos too. Naturally, their relationship blossomed. And then,
when I was on board, I had to put my hand on this cylinder coming up out of the floor or whatever, and I could feel all my energy draining into the cylinder. And I was told that, you know, it's mother's love for the babies. And somehow they put the energy into the babies, and Apparently they cannot live without a human touch. It was like I was the universal love machine, you know, for the babies.
You see, your theory is fine, sir, except for one particular thing that hasn't been mentioned, and that is that I myself have been having experiences ever since I was a child.
Because it wouldn't be Central Weekend if we didn't put these claims to a lie detector test. Now, earlier this evening, Maria and Rowan agreed to take a lie detector test, and Britain's leading lie detector expert, Jeremy Barrett, performed the tests on each of them separately.
Were the creatures definitely not human beings?
Yes.
Were you taken from a motel room one night whilst on holiday in America?
Yes.
Did these creatures return you to your bed?
Yes.
Did you meet that night 4 creatures who were not human beings?
Yes.
Did these creatures examine your body internally and externally against your will?
Yes.
Jeremy Barrett, are they telling the truth?
They are. Yep.
What?
The point is that whether, and I do perfectly believe that the experience I had was genuine, and I've never actually said aliens, I have had interaction with something that is non-human. I've never actually said alien specimen. I don't know where they come from, and I don't know who they are or what they are. The trauma that I had following meeting those was genuine.
Yes,
and the fact of the matter is, we should be trying to investigate the trauma that people like myself go through, whether it is fantasy, whether it's psychological, whether it's genuine or not. The fact of the matter is, it's the trauma that is important.
I entirely agree with that.